Are you headed to southern Spain, going to visit the beautiful city of Sevilla? Well, this video has it all, from how to get there, how to get around, what hotels, some of the sites, as well as some of the tips and tricks of visiting Sevilla for the first time. I want to give a big shout out to AeroPress. AeroPress is sponsoring this video, so make sure to stay tuned where there is a demonstration of this incredible coffee maker. And in the description below, you can get 15% off your AeroPress Go. So let's go ahead and get started with the beautiful city of Sevilla. So Sevilla is the fourth largest city in Spain, and it is in the heart and the capital of Andalusia. Something to note about Sevilla though, it is one of the hottest cities in all of Europe. So my recommendation before we even start is maybe skip Sevilla in the month of August. Sevilla is the third most visited city in all of Spain after Madrid and Barcelona. So how do you actually get to Sevilla? Well, it's quite easy. It's not a direct flight from the United States or Canada. Typically you have to fly to Barcelona or to Madrid first. But once you get there, you can take an EasyJet or a Ryanair down to Sevilla, as it is a major international airport. You can also take a train as well. So there's a high-speed train that takes about 4 hours from Barcelona. And if you're going to drive, it's about 5 hours from Madrid and 7 hours from Barcelona. It is such an incredible city. And once you arrive, the international airport is about a 20-minute drive or 25 euro taxi to get into the heart of the city. There is also a great bus system that runs every 30 minutes as well. If you're going to be arriving by train, the train station is located right in the heart of the city, maybe about a mile from the Cathedral. Now, a little bit of history about this beautiful city. It was originally an Iberian town, and then it was ruled by the Romans, the Visigoths, the Moors, and then finally the Christians. It has always been an important inland port and was where Christopher Columbus sailed to the New Americas. In the 16th century, there were 150,000 inhabitants, so it was a very large city, very wealthy, as all of the gold and silver landed back in Spain from the Americas here in Sevilla. Today, it is also a big tourist city, as we all know. It is also an important industrial city, simply because it is still an important inland port in the country of Spain. So when should you go to Sevilla and how long should you stay? Well, simply as long as you want. It's a great 3-day weekend or city break. It's also a wonderful place to actually spend a month or two. I love Sevilla. There's so much to do and so much to see, and it's such a great lifestyle. It would make a great second home or expat city, which it is actually a huge expat city. When should you go to Sevilla? Well, the best time to go is in the spring. It is beautiful weather. The trees are blooming, the flowers are coming out, and it is a wonderful time to visit. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, August can be extremely hot, so I might stay away from the tourist season, the height of the tourist season, and the height of the heat in the month of August. So if you're headed to Sevilla in the spring, something to note is it is festival season. First you have Semana Santa, which is a week going up to Easter, and you also have Feria, which is the incredible fair where you see all of the men dressed up and all of the women in flamenco dresses walking in the street and having huge parties. So pricing during Feria and Semana Santa are extremely expensive, and the city is full of locals and full of tourists. Another time to go is in the early fall. Last year I was there in September and the weather was perfect. It was warm during the day, cool in the evening, and I would say in general, one of my favorite times to travel anywhere in Europe is September. So when I travel, I love to bring my own coffee. I mean, I am pretty picky about the coffee that I drink. I drink it black and about 75% decaf, just enough caffeine to get me going in the morning. This is the coffee maker that I take with me. It's the AeroPress Go. I love this coffee maker for so many reasons. One, it makes the perfect cup of coffee. And number two, when you're a traveler, it is super compact. Look how small this can be. So let's talk about how this actually works. This is a measuring cup, and this is where you're going to put the coffee. You can either use one of their stainless steel filters here, or one of their paper filters. We're gonna go ahead and use a paper filter, and you just put it in here and you screw this on the bottom just like that. All you have to do now is, and here's the best part about the AeroPress Go, it comes with its own coffee cup. And this comes off, to be a lid if you need a lid, or if you're on a road trip and need something so it doesn't slip on the surface, it can be on the bottom and it makes the perfect cup of coffee. So all you have to do is take this, put this on top, and then you add a little bit of coffee. It also, the AeroPress Go also comes with your scoop. So I scooped in my coffee. We're gonna add just a little bit of water so the coffee can bloom just a minute. Oh, it smells so good, so good. We also get with AeroPress Go a stir. So we're gonna stir a little bit just to get it going. Then we're gonna top it off all the way up. And you can see that it is starting to drain down the bottom, so make sure that you have a coffee cup underneath it, or you're gonna end up with lots of coffee on the ground. Now you put in the plunger, which is similar to the French press, and after 2 minutes, all you have to do is this, and you're making your perfect cup of coffee. Absolutely perfect, the perfect cup. So cheers. That is delicious coffee. Again, thank you so much to AeroPress for sponsoring this video. And if you go to the description below, you can get 15% off the AeroPress Go, the AeroPress Clear, or the AeroPress XL, which is huge. It'll make a couple of cups of coffee. Thank you again, and let's continue on our information about Sevilla, Spain. Now that we've arrived and we know how long to stay, let's talk about where to stay in town as well as how to get around. Well, it's relatively easy to get around as long as you're staying in the center of town. It is a walking city and there is so much to see. I do recommend doing as much walking as you possibly can. They have a great bus system as well, and that bus is about a €1.40 per trip. And you want to have correct change, and you can buy the ticket on the bus. They also have e-bikes where you can rent a bike for the day, and it is so much fun to rent a bike and go see everything that Sevilla has to offer. You can get a car, but honestly, you do not need a car when you're spending time in Sevilla, especially if you're there just for a city break. The only reason I would recommend getting a car is if you're going to go out and see some of the white villages, or you're going to do some day trips, which I'm talking about in just a few minutes. So where to stay while you're there? As I mentioned, staying around the cathedral in the center of town is probably your best option if you're just there for a few days. Another area just across the river is called Triana, and this is the old gypsy part of town where you get lots of flamenco, lots of amazing tapas bars, and it's not quite so touristy, but it's going to be a 15-minute walk into town. You can also head just a little bit north of downtown in the area of Las Setas, which is the incredible structure that looks like gigantic mushrooms. You can go to San Julian, which is just a little bit further away than that. Something to note though, it is a 15-minute walk back into the heart of downtown near the cathedral and the Alcazar. It does depend on your price point and how long you intend on staying. If you're only gonna stay a couple of days, I would stay as close as I can to the cathedral. If you're gonna be there a week or a month, then working your way out a little bit to save some money on your accommodation might be a great idea, and also you'll get a little bit more of a local flair. As for hotel recommendations, there are great Airbnbs all over Sevilla, but there are a couple of interesting hotels that I would recommend if price is not a problem. Number one is Hotel Alfonso the 13th, which is a 5-star hotel right in the heart of the city. It is an elegant and sophisticated and walled-off hotel, but you can actually go there just to have a drink. It is beautiful and again, very sophisticated. Another interesting hotel in the Jewish Quarter is Hotel Las Casas de la Juraria. I hope I said that correctly. That is an interesting underground maze of hotel rooms and old homes that have been purchased to turn into an incredible hotel. I went in there for a spa day and wandered around, and what an incredible place to stay in if you're planning on doing something very unique while you're in Sevilla. An interesting 3.5-star suggestion is the Palacio Bucareli. You know, to me, I love the atmosphere of Sevilla, and when I'm there, I want to stay in something that is unique and different, not the mainstream hotels that you see all over the world. Just my personal preference. Oh, and I forgot to mention that the Hotel Alfonso the 13th is a Marriott property, and I'm a Marriott girl, so you could possibly stay there on points. Now that we have our hotel, let's talk about some things to do. Well, there is the obvious that all of the guides tell you about. Number one is to go see the cathedral, and what an incredible cathedral it is. It actually has the tomb of Christopher Columbus. Additionally, you can see the minaret, which was originally a Moorish minaret that is now the bell tower. You can go up to the top and get a 360-degree view of the city. Next to the cathedral, you can go to the Alcazar, and the Alcazar is a Moorish castle with some incredible, beautiful gardens on the outside, and today it is still used by the royal family of Spain. This video gives you just a taste of things to do. Make sure to watch my other video of all the top things to do and everything that you have to see while you're visiting Sevilla. Couple of things I do recommend every time you go to a new city. One, do a hop-on, hop-off bus or take a free walking tour your first day in town so you get the lay of the land. I also recommend your first night in town to take a food tour, and the food tour I recommend in Sevilla is Spain Food Sherpas. They're amazing. I love them. I went on a tapas tour with Spain Food Sherpas in Sevilla, in Malaga, and Granada. I think they're such an incredible company. I also recommend that you do everything flamenco that you can while you're in Sevilla. The first thing to do, I recommend taking Devour tours. They have a flamenco tapas tour, which is so much fun. A great host, and you learn so much about flamenco. I recommend taking this tour before you go to a flamenco show. As for a flamenco show, do not buy the ticket by some hawker in the middle of the shopping street. Go to a more traditional, intimate, smaller venue like Peña Torres Macarena, which is more intimate and authentic. And if you want the ultimate flamenco experience, then I recommend going to Maria's house. It's an Airbnb experience where she and her team will dress you up like a flamenco dancer. You will feel so beautiful. She has a makeup and hair artist. She gives you the clothes, puts some flowers in your hair, gives you everything, the earrings and the shoes and everything. And then once you're all dolled up, she has a professional photographer come in and take pictures of you throughout her beautiful, beautiful traditional Sevilla home. Speaking of Airbnb experiences, another one I recommend is visiting with Jose and let him take you on a tour of the Jewish Quarter or the Barrio Santa Cruz. It is such an interesting tour, about 2 hours, and he has so much information and stories about the history of the area, as well as particular stories about families throughout history in the Jewish Quarter. Now let's talk about what to eat while you're in Sevilla, as well as where to eat. Some drinks that you have to try while you're there. One is orange wine, one is vermouth, and one is sherry. It is not a place where you're going to get sangria. Please don't go to Sevilla and order sangria. Another thing to do, please don't go to Sevilla and order paella. Paella is from Valencia, not from Sevilla, and if you're going to be getting paella, you're probably at a overpriced tourist destination. So no paella and no sangria. Couple of things that are traditional in the city of Sevilla. One is a side dish that is garbanzo beans or chickpeas and spinach. It is delicious. They're cooked together and it is so good. Another thing that is very interesting is fried cazón, which is fried dogfish, which is a fish that's a little heartier, kind of like it's a monkfish actually. And it is delicious when you taste it fried, and it's a beautiful plate. Some of the other dishes to try are carrillada, the cerdo, which are the cheeks of the pork, and they're served over French fries with a sort of a nice gravy on it. So good. I'm talking so good. Also, they're famous for their montadito sandwich, which is a sandwich of the leftover meats from the night before, all put in a sandwich. You can get that in basically any tapas bar. Something to note about the tapas bars in Spain, you want to go to a particular tapas bar to get one tapa and a glass of whatever is famous in that part of Spain. Since I was talking a little bit about food timing, let's talk about when is breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Well, breakfast is pretty easy whenever you get up. It's coffee and maybe a piece of bread with some olive oil and tomatoes, which is very traditional throughout Spain. Lunch is sort of 1 o'clock. It is not an early lunch, so plan accordingly. 1 o'clock, and you're going to sit down with your family and friends and have a nice long lunch. Remember that Spain is known for its siestas, so basically between 2 and 5, unless you're in a tourist area, the shops are going to be closed. After lunch, you take a nice nap, and then what you do around 7 o'clock, you're gonna go out, maybe you're gonna go grab a drink with a friend, you're gonna go sit outside, and then around 7:30, 8 o'clock, you might head over to a tapas bar, grab a tapa and a drink, and then you just work your way, as I mentioned, until 1 o'clock in the morning when it's finally time to go home. All the meals are late, all the meals also are long and drawn out, and it's such an experience to eat a beautiful, beautiful meal basically anywhere in Spain, but especially in Sevilla. Now for a couple of restaurants that I recommend. Yes, there are the famous restaurants, and if you go on one of the tapas tours that I recommended, then they're going to give you some great options. But I really enjoy going to Bar Triana, which is a elevated, heightened tapas bar, and the food was spectacular. And something about going to tapas restaurants when they're busy is you have got to fend for yourself. You have got to work your way up to the front of the line, get next to the bar, wave the guy down, and make sure you get fed. Another actual restaurant, sit-down restaurant, I went there for lunch that I thought was delicious was Universal People. They had beautiful shrimp and they had the most incredible burrata salad. It was so, so delicious. A couple other restaurants I recommend. One is El Rinconcillo, which is probably the most famous tapas bar in Sevilla and is in all the guidebooks. I also recommend going to the Mercado de Triana, which is the farmer's market or the food market in Triana, and I had the most beautiful piece of swordfish for lunch. It was absolutely delicious, cooked perfectly there. I really enjoyed going to lunch there. The Mercado is only open until 1 o'clock, so you can't go to dinner. Now that you know what to eat and where to eat, what does the food typically cost? Well, it's going to be about €1.50 to €3 for a coffee, and it's going to be probably €3 for breakfast. For lunch, you're going to spend probably €10-ish if you're in the tourist area, maybe €4 to €5 if you're in a more locals area. For dinner, you can spend, tapas can be anywhere from €2 to €5 to €7 each, so it depends on how much you're going to be drinking and how much you're going to be eating. Typically, I was spending about €35, and yes, that can be a lot, but I would spend about €35 for dinner, and that was tapas beforehand, all the drinks I wanted, as well as a main dinner. So in general, I would say it's a little bit more expensive for food and accommodation in Sevilla because it's one of the larger tourist areas and one of the larger cities. So now let's talk about what fun shopping there is to do in Sevilla. They are famous for ceramics and pottery. Make sure that you're going shopping in Sevilla outside of the tourist area, or at least not on the main drag. If there's lots of red and lots of little bowls, it's a tourist shop. Don't go shopping there unless you want to buy a trinket for the grandkids or a friend. But if you want to buy high quality things, go off the main streets. You're going to find some incredible shops with some artisanal, beautiful, beautiful work, both ceramics and pottery. Additionally, what's famous in Sevilla are the flamenco clothes. Whether you're buying a manton, this is the manton that I bought. It's a shawl that I am in love with. And no, they're not cheap because they're hand sewn and hand embroidered. You can also buy the big fans, and fan yourself around, especially in the heat of the summer. You can also buy the beautiful combs for your hair as well. It is it's very feminine and very sexy to buy some of these clothes while you're in Sevilla. And to be honest, pottery, ceramics, and flamenco style clothes, that's what you want to be buying when you're visiting Sevilla. A couple additional tips: look out for pickpockets. It's a big city with lots of tourists, and so there are pickpockets in the tourist areas. Don't get caught in a trap, or always have your bags with you. Pay attention to your surroundings. Additionally, it is Spain and things are closed on Sunday, so I would recommend maybe doing some of your tours or going out for a horseback ride or a hike somewhere out of the city on a Sunday because so many things are actually closed. Of course, the tourist areas are gonna be open, but they have limited hours. So make sure to leave a comment below with your favorite tip for going to Sevilla, and make sure to check out the other videos on Spain and Andalusia, including my heart city. I love the city of Malaga, and I have several videos on Malaga and Marbella as well. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to continue watching all of my series on Spain. I'll see y'all in Spain very, very soon because I absolutely love that beautiful country.